You know, we talk about the deep state, we talk about the globalists.
Inflation versus deflation. Well, I mean,
You're at Mar-a-Lago.
I'm baffled that this isn't front page news.
Do you guys support a specific political party, or do you dislike both of them?
Oh, it worked like a charm on you guys.
Let's go, Brandon.
What's up, everybody? A lot of stuff to talk about today. We got Trump talking to Putin, had a wonderful conversation. Trump's going to visit Moscow or the Kremlin. Putin's going to visit the White House. We got this crazy video. I'm trying to figure out if it's a fake video, if they're acting, or if it's legit. Oh my God, I can't wait to show you this video of you know how James O'Keefe does those undercover investigations, like those date things where he videotapes people. So there's this like real like twinkish guy that is just spilling the tea, saying that like every dirty detail they did at the EPA, like giving away billions of dollars. So gotta show you that, and then Lee Zeldin's response to that's developing over the last couple hours. Then Elon tweeted this picture / video last night of how the government keeps track of retirement data, and it is worse than you could have ever imagined. It's insane. And we got somebody in Congress saying that the term manufacturing is sexist because the word man's in it. So we're gonna get to all of that, but first and foremost, I want to show you this sequence of videos from Trump and Putin today. Let's see. So Trump and Putin have this epic phone call. Let's take a look at that. Here we go.
The phone, and we ultimately expect to meet. In fact, we expect that he'll come here and I'll go there, and we're going to meet also probably in Saudi Arabia. The first time we'll meet in Saudi Arabia, see if we can get something done. But we want to end that war. That war is a disaster. So we're dealing with President Putin largely on the phone.
You know what's funny about this too? People like the what's his name, that annoying Twitter account that says Republicans against Trump. He posts that and he says Putin's puppet. Like what, bro? You don't want the war to end? Like you're upset that our president's speaking to a president that's involved in the biggest war in the world right now? You want him to not speak to him like Biden did for 2 years?
So we're getting security on our money. We're going to have it secured by, they have rare earth, and they have oil and gas, and they have a lot of other things, and we're asking for security on our money.
So does it mean you are not sending any
They've
more
agreed to it. Ukraine has agreed to it.
Does it mean you are not sending any more aid to Ukraine?
No, we are, but we want it secured, and the money is going to be secured.
When would the U.S. stop sending funding? When would the U.S. stop sending funding?
Because if we didn't do that, then Putin would say he won. We're the thing that's holding it back, and frankly, we'll go as long as we have to go, because we're not going to let the other happen. So we're getting security on our money. We're going to have it secured by, they have rare earth.
A little bit of a different narrative than he was taking before, but I mean, I definitely like that more than him like just blankly saying, yeah, we're going to shovel out money then for nothing. At least it's secured by something. And I mean, I thought that the other ones were loans. That's what Tim Scott tried to say. That was like an economic hitman situation where we were giving them that money, and if they don't pay it back, then we could, possess some assets. But who the hell knows?
Dealing with President Putin largely on
the
phone.
We saw this one already. Let's see. I think there's another one. I'm gonna throw up a poll. Will this thing be over by April?
Do you expect Ukraine?
Say it, what?
Do you view Ukraine as an equal member of this peace process?
It's an interesting question. I think they have to make peace. Their people are being killed, and I think they have to make peace.
We will continue to be.
I said that was not a good war to go into, and I think they have to make peace. That's what I think.
See, they're trying to get him with the gotcha questions. Trying to get him with the gotchas. And then I was really happy to see Hegseth coming out and say this. I've been waiting for somebody to come out and say this for a long time.
The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5. There also must be robust international oversight of the line of contact. To be clear, as part of any security guarantee, there will not be U.S. troops deployed to Ukraine.
And so let's get something straight real quick. The primary reason this war is even happening is because of the NATO expansion. So I think this is probably the most important chart you could look at when it comes to what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. So, if you've been watching me for a bit, you've seen this before, but look at this. Every single year since 1949, we've expanded, crept right up to Ukraine, Russia's border with NATO. So what the hell do you expect to happen with that? Like, look what happened when Russia tried to put assets in Cuba. Like, what would you expect to happen if Russia was putting, the Warsaw Pact? If they were putting Warsaw Pact resources into every country in South America and creeping it up its way to encroaching on the U.S. Like, of course this was going to happen. And funny thing about this, the leader of this initiative was the freaking president of Lockheed Martin. He led the committee to expand NATO. How about that? Right when the defense contractors were shriveling up and dying, the president of Lockheed Martin led the committee to expand NATO lobbying effort. How about that? And did you know that Lockheed Martin receives 99% of its funding from government contracts. So it's a multi-$100 billion company, the biggest defense contractor, but it would be nothing without government contracts, most of which probably aren't even like something that would be happening if it weren't for them throwing their influence around and for people trying to make these wars happen. What do you guys think? Am I crazy here, or are you guys seeing what I'm saying? While you brew on that, let's see. Should we go trans sanctuary city first with this thing? I'm trying to find out if it's a bit or not. Yeah, let's just get this thing out of the way because the other one's a bit of a longer discussion. So I don't know if this is real or not. Let's take a look at it. Let me know what you guys think. Here we go.
The city to protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yes, I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
I'm shaking right.
Okay, by the way, real quick, I just looked it up. This is real. This is not an act. This is not a sketch or a bit or anything. This is really happening at a town hall in Massachusetts. Confirmed last night.
Now, I don't want to be here. I'm sorry. Am I taking too long pleading for my life?
Yes.
You remembered how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
Oh, God, of course they are.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder that causes me immense
mental illness.
I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have narcolepsy, and I couldn't drive myself here, so I had to hide from my driver that I was in drag, which is not an easy thing to do in drag.
I do not want to be here.
Oh
it's my
my
day
God.
off. I do not want to be in your DMs. I do not want to be in your email inboxes. I do not want my creativity writing diss tracks like Kendrick. I don't want to spend an hour applying glitter on my face so that you will hear and see me. I want you to listen to me.
Let us remember that the Nazis burned the books the Nazis burned books on gender sciences first. Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans, LGBT people, and even special needs, denying life-saving and affirming care.
Can you look at me and tell me how many of my friends need to die before you do anything?
Oh, my God.
Look at me.
Okay, we're all done.
That's
here.
an angry tranny.
fucking pathetic.
Whoa.
Of course, we need to continue celebrating Black History Month because in spite of what's coming down from Washington, we all know that we all exist and we all need to be recognized for our existence.
But be aware that you are a guest in my house when you come. And when you come, know that there are strong queer and trans people in my classroom who will collect you with the quickness.
My name in drag is Dee Dee Delight.
Oh, dear God.
And my name out of drag is Dewey Cosgrove Atienza.
Laddie LaRouge, he, they, in drag, District 3.
My legal name is Olivia D'Ambrosio. My public name is Livy Scanlon. My wife and I own a home in the Canal District.
I speak as someone who is always misgendered, like all the time. People refer to me as sir when I prefer to be referred to as ma'am. I speak as someone who is afraid to use public toilets. I speak as someone who is a member of this community and is a queer person.
What's up with that shimmy?
You have to imagine being me and my wife, fearing that our marriage rights will be stripped away at any moment.
Oh my God.
Please, I only have so much time. Please, Joe's gonna cut me off.
Which matters more? Covering the legal fees of systemic police brutality or protecting the lives of queer people in our community? How many lives have to be lost before you consider fighting back against fascism and corruption?
Now is the time to say that if federal money relies on the dehumanization of trans people, that we don't want your goddamn money.
I get that some of you care more about easy funding than trans lives and don't mind Nazis for some whatever reason, but
Normally, I would say good evening, but through the chair, I will only impart my sour grapes.
It's an extremely emotional and taxing thing to stand up here as someone as part of the trans and gender diverse community.
My name is Katie. I'm from District 5, and I'm speaking in support of agenda items 10B and 14B.
The freaking mask.
Right now in our country, Trump is threatening the trans and gender diverse community.
Noticing people here are trying to control
what
the
the
rights
heck?
of others, and that's not right. We should make
That's just messed up. Bring a freaking kid there. But yeah, man, I mean, like mental freaking illness. Look, this is not an accident either. So very important chart again to finish this thing off. LGBT by generation. All right, so this is the most important chart in my opinion when it comes to this crazy stuff. So, I always talk about this book, this really important book called The Committee of 300, where they talk about something called the Tavistock Institute. And if you're really a day one person, you might remember when I brought that up a few months ago. So the Tavistock Institute, it's the brainwashing center of the world, basically. Like it was started 100 years ago, exists in the UK, originally designed for psychological mass manipulation of the public, right? It was designed to get people into wars, to learn how many times you have to bomb a society to demoralize them. They, according to this book, were responsible for the Beatles. Like they created the Beatles and then sent them to America to try to disrupt the nuclear family by, the things they said in their songs, the way they dressed, the way their mannerisms were, et cetera, et cetera. But today, the Tavistock Institute, number one on their list of agendas is all this weird, nasty, tranny surgery, gender change ideology stuff. So that's why I don't think it's an accident that look at the generations. Each generation exponentially higher than the last one when it comes to people identifying as LGBT. So was it 1% for the silent generation or the traditionals, 2% for baby boomers, 3% for Gen X, 11% for millennials, then 20% for Gen Z. Now, like I think that you could very easily manipulate a lot of the population to think a certain way if you're pushing it hard enough. Like, whatever you portray is cool, like through media, through education. Like I was talking to my cousin about this, who's in high school, and he said that like the cool cliques in school now are like you have to be like the part of this LGBT thing to be like in the cool clique. Like what? I mean, like it no longer is it the day where the kids who like play football or the best athletes. Like apparently that's not cool anymore. Apparently now it's cool to be part of this. But check this out. So let's see, which one was I going to go to? Tavistock Institute. Tavistock Institute Gender Surgery. So this NHS to close Tavistock Gender Identity Clinic. So yeah, the thing was forced to shut down. A whole bunch of nasty stuff happened there. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but not only were they doing the operations there, but they were studying how to make it cool and make it trendy, like in popular culture. And, you know, I call myself an independent because like I've never really held the opinion that gay marriage should be illegal, but like the whole concern of it in the first place was that it was going to get out of control and you were going to start trying to indoctrinate kids. And there's a time where people said like, oh no, don't be so dramatic, conservatives. It's not going to get that bad. But guys, it was only 20 years ago where it was illegal in every state. And like, you just saw those numbers. So look, gay marriage legalization by states. So look, this, right. Oh, is it gone now? So there's a website, I thought it was Pew, that shows like a timeline of how this went down, but basically started in Massachusetts, and of course like Massachusetts is like ground zero for LGBT stuff, and started there in like 2002 or whatever, and then just spread, and by the time Obama was president, I think it was legal everywhere. But hey, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get to the extreme place where I say like, oh no, that shouldn't be legal, because I'm not big on like telling people what to do with their private lives and stuff. When you stop making your life private and start making it super public and throwing it in the face of everybody else to the point where you're influencing kids, then that's not your private life anymore. So that's what people like that should start thinking about if they care so much about, you know, gay marriage rights and everything, because they're going to ruin it for themselves if they keep speaking like this. Freaking trans sanctuary city, get out of here. Now, speaking of, oh, not that one yet. Speaking of gay stuff, this kid seems a little on the spectrum with that, but he is spilling the tea on what happened with the EPA and like billions of dollars. So take a look at this. Look at what this kid said here. This is from a couple months ago.
Yeah, as fast as possible before they come in and like talk about it. It truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the top net. Who are the gold bars going to? Nonprofits, states, tribes. We gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away if Trump won, and because it was a insurance policy against Trump winning. Until the Trump people come in and tell us we can no longer give up money. I do environmental, climate, policy things.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Is that stuff is here?
I mean, because I do like federal government climate things. Well, I have been doing that. That might change, but
why?
So look at the EPA. So a lot of attention.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I do, you know, the Inflation Reduction Act. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay, Biden's climate law.
Yes.
Yeah. So I do IRA implementation. I work with like Biden appointees. The money that we've given out like tens of billions of dollars. Like for the last year, we've given out like $50 billion.
$50 million.
Billion with B.
$50 billion.
Yes, for climate things. So like to go work for one of these places, I think would be really cool.
What are the places that you've given them to?
It's only been a few weeks, so it's a little early. But like green banks, so like nonprofit institutions that are like making it more financially feasible to build renewables, to do like climate projects. I do implementation now, so I do like how do you spend $100 billion? How do you make sure that like they're the proper? Well, until recently, how do you make sure the proper like processes are in place to like prevent fraud and prevent abuse and like ensure that like we are funding like good paying jobs and that sort of stuff. Now it's just how to get the money out as fast as possible before they come in and like.
Really?
Yeah.
We can do that?
To an extent, just like within reason.
Yeah, really? Yeah. Why not? Because if it's not gonna,
Basically, that's what it all is now. I mean, now it all is like, it truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing like gold bars off the top of that.
Does it really? It's gotta feel weird.
It's weird. I mean, it's not good vibes. It's not good. I mean, everyone's very sad.
Who are the gold bars going to?
Nonprofits, states, tribes. Cities.
Anything like in the news that I would know of?
Not yet.
Like any organization, like.
Well, they're all local. A lot of them are small, not like local nonprofits. This is like a big thing that most of the stuff we funded, but the thing that we haven't funded yet are like the local nonprofit program that like was going to be like a inter-Kamala Harris administration program. So now we're just like getting it as quick as possible.
Right. Yeah. The tune of $50 billion.
No, it's like $2 billion at this point. But yeah, we got most of it, like 90% exactly.
Wow. Yeah. And what happens if they try to stop it? They can't?
When they come in, if you haven't gotten out the door, then they can stop it.
Yeah, like 2 months. If they don't get it out by a certain date, what's that date?
It's the inauguration, the 20th. It's renewed on the 20th of January. Yeah.
You can work right down to the minute.
It's probably like a little afternoon, but yeah, it's basically new. Yeah.
Hey, throw a couple billion here or there.
It's until the Trump people come in and tell us we can no longer give up money.
Wow.
So that's at the very earliest, it's noon on the 20th, and it's probably a little bit after because they have to get in the building and tell people what to do.
Will they come in and stop?
Yeah, like I think they will. I think they will come in and they will issue an order that like all grants have to stop. EPA can't give any money out. So we reevaluate anything, and then they'll say we're reevaluating it, and then Congress will say we're stopping this entirely, and they'll pass a law that says all this money doesn't mean this anymore that you wanted to give out. No, I think we gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away. If Trump won, and because it was a external policy against Trump winning. So like these are basically like nonprofit institutions that will cover the entire country. They could have been a government agency, but because they aren't, they're safer from Republicans taking the money away.
You guys are like saving the world, literally.
I don't know if we are, but like we're throwing gold bars up at the Titanic. Yeah.
Throwing gold bars off the Titanic. All right, so this is Lee Zeldin's department now. So let's see what Lee Zeldin had to say about this. This is from like 2 hours ago. Here we go. Lee Zeldin to the rescue.
Hi, this is EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. One of my very top priorities at EPA is to be an excellent steward of your hard-earned tax dollars. There will be zero tolerance of any waste and abuse. An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic, rushing to get billions of your tax dollars out the door before Inauguration Day. The gold bars were tax dollars, and tossing them off the Titanic meant the Biden administration knew they were wasting it. Following this revelation, during my meetings with members of Congress, I made a very important commitment to them and to the American people, which I reiterated at my confirmation hearing that if confirmed, I would immediately get a full accounting. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars. Shockingly, roughly $20 billion of your tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution by the Biden EPA. This scheme was the first of its kind in EPA history and it was purposefully designed to obligate all of the money in a rush job with reduced oversight. Even further, this pot of $20 billion was awarded to just 8 entities that were
Here we go.
responsible for doling out your money to NGOs and others at their discretion with far less transparency. Just under $7 billion was sent to one entity called the Climate United Fund. I'm sure you and I now have some of the same questions. How do these organizations decide how to allocate funding? How much money have they given out so far and to whom? Are there any former Biden EPA staffers who are now working at these entities? Let me make one thing abundantly clear. At this point, there is zero reason to suspect any wrongdoing by the bank. Here's my position as EPA administrator. The financial agent agreement with the bank needs to be instantly terminated, and the bank must immediately return all of the gold bars that the Biden administration tossed off the Titanic. EPA needs to reassume responsibility for all of these funds. We will review every penny that has gone out the door. I will be referring this matter to the Inspector General's office, and will work with the Justice Department as well. The days of irresponsibly shoveling boatloads of cash to far-left activist groups in the name of environmental justice and climate equity are over.
All right, so that's a positive thing. I mean, I think most of us could agree with that. But what I don't get is where did $20 billion come from? Because, it says here that the EPA's budget is 9 to 10 billion. I mean, are they talking Inflation Reduction Act? Inflation Reduction Act money to EPA. There we go. The Inflation Reduction Act provided the EPA with $41 billion in 2022 to support new and existing programs. So maybe it came from that. But, I came across something fascinating the other day, and I've been super excited to show you guys. So, I always talk about super creepy people own our debt, in my opinion. So take a look at this. All right. So if you were to guess, I've been asking everybody about this since I found it. So if you were to guess, what percent of our debt would you guess is owned by domestic versus international holders? I'll give you a second answer. So what percent is owned by international versus domestic? All right. 3, 2, 1. Put your answers down. 20% is owned by international. So, everybody always talks about oh my God, China owns $1 trillion worth of our debt. Oh my God, Japan owns $1.2 trillion worth of our debt. Not the majority of our debt at all, not by a long shot. So who does own the debt? So debt held by public, the Fed, number 2. You got mutual funds up there. And this is trillions, by the way. So the Fed is at about 5 trillion. I think it's a little bit higher now with where their balance sheet is. When I check their balance sheet, it says about 8 trillion. So maybe this is a little bit out of date, but you got the Fed up there. You got mutual funds up there for investment reasons. State and local governments, pension funds, insurance companies, then the internationals. But you got this one right here. That's the biggest. And it just says other. Now, who could that be? Well, I tell you, remember, the Fed is a private institution started by the Rothschilds. I always say that was their bread and butter, the Rothschilds, owning debt of another country. They bought 30% of all British government debt in the 1800s. They're the ones that were most responsible for starting the Fed. They had a group of frontmen help them start the Fed in the U.S. They got a senator on board. They got J.P. Morgan to operate as their frontman. He even pretended to be anti-Semitic just to get rid of any suspicions that he might be working with them. And everybody else that was involved in the Warburg dude, Paul Warburg, and a bunch of dudes from Kuhn and Loeb, which was their U.S. bank, the Rothschilds' U.S. bank. So this is where I would imagine they'd be hiding out at, this other category that's the biggest category. Because you have to ask yourself, why does the Fed do what it does? What goes into them deciding, okay, right now is the right time to lift rates. Right now is the right time to cut rates. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you try to look into who owns the Fed, it's not very easy to find that out. I mean, it's easy to see who started it. And if there's not a lot of information coming out in between the time it started and now about who owns it, then I don't know. I would imagine that not much has changed. Again, the Fed owns about a third of the domestically held debt, but that's one thing. But this, again, the biggest category, other, just other. That's super creepy, guys. So this shows the Fed's balance sheet. This is them buying bonds and buying mortgages to push down the interest rate. And everybody's confused why, if the Fed's lowering rates, why are mortgage rates still going up? That's because they're selling mortgages. This going down means they're selling bonds and mortgages, which means the rates are going to go up when they do that. Yes, the number for foreign debt holders is growing, but I am more concerned about that other category. And in total, yeah, that one's not as big of a deal. Federal trust makes up the majority of intergovernmental debt. Again, other's the biggest. Who is this other? Who is that other? Bigger than Social Security and Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund. Bigger than everything. Okay, so what's interesting about this? You've been hearing a lot about Trump's tariffs and how it's causing inflation. Look, watch this. I'll type in Trump tariff. Watch my inflation articles come up. Trump simple tariffs, blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump mail tariffs, 3 U.S. goods that could cost more. When the pain hits home, Republicans balk at Trump's spending cuts and tariffs. Mitch McConnell, Kentuckians can't afford the high cost of Trump's tariffs. I want proof that Mitch McConnell can even speak words right now. That we've seen him one time. He was getting shucked away, or whatever the word is, shuttled away in a wheelchair, getting thrown into a van, not allowed to speak or not able to speak. So, and then voting for Pete Hegseth without speaking about it. So, call me crazy, but I'm not all that convinced that Mitch McConnell's out there saying, well, actually, no, he probably would say that because his job is to be a fake Republican. The Trump effect, how U.S. tariffs, 51st state threatens shaking up Canada. Mexico tariffs risk inflation, U.S. housing crisis. Oh, here we go. Trump tariffs, EU minister hold crisis talks. Inflation increased in January, posting obstacle for Trump tariff plans. Now that's hilarious. They're yelling and screaming about. Watch, type in inflation, and it's gonna say all these outrageous things like, "Oh my God, consumer prices went up 0.5% to 3% in January." Look, article after article after article. All right, so let's take a look at what the CPI was like. Let's take a look at what the inflation rate was last 10 years. This is hilarious. All right, ready? Last 10 years. So this is where we at. This is where we're at right now. 3%. Okay. Remember when we were here? What did they say? They said Putin price hikes, Putin price hikes, Putin price hikes. So they have the audacity, they have the gall to start freaking out about 3% inflation because Trump wants to try and do tariffs, but they were totally run cover for Biden. I mean, why am I wasting time talking about this? It's not surprising. Like, they get money from NGOs to say certain things. Like, came out last week. Like, of course they're going to say this stuff, but I mean, just in case you're tempted to fall for it, or people who are outright falling for it, say like, hey, why weren't you complaining this much or this concerned about inflation when it was at 9%? It's at 3% right now. And at that time, I heard you saying Putin price hikes. Why are you saying Trump tariffs now? Like, do you realize that we don't have high paying jobs here because we don't build things here. Like if we can get companies to actually build their products here, we would have higher paying jobs here. And then if we have tariff revenue coming in, we could lower taxes. So we would have higher paying jobs and lower taxes and an industrial base, which we don't have right now. Man, there's like a super important committee hearing happening every freaking day. These last few days have been so busy. I've been like watching them, but not able to watch them as much as I want to, and I want to cover all of them, which I'm gonna probably in the next few days. Like Jerome Powell testified today and the day before. There was a Doge hearing today. I need to watch through that to properly cover it. But just ripping through things rapid fire right now. Larry Fink said interesting thing today. So he comes out and says his 2 cents on what he thinks about the Social Security system, which I agree with him, but it's funny coming from him. So let's see if this pops up. Not the right one. Come on, Fink. Larry Fink says his diagnosis of the Social Security program is that if you only rely on Social Security, you're going to live in poverty. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink isn't sugarcoating the problem. This is from Yahoo Finance. Retirement in America is broken. In a March 2024 interview, Bloomberg, David Weston got straight to the point, asking Fink, when's this article? Why did this article come out today if it's from a 2024 interview? Said, give us your diagnosis on the problem. Fink clarified that millions of Americans aren't financially prepared for their later years. We have still 57 million Americans who don't have any savings or any retirement plan, he stated. And if those people think Social Security alone will carry them through, Fink had a blunt reality check. Quote, if that's all you have when you retire, you're going to be living in poverty, below the poverty line. Fink's wake-up call wasn't just theoretical. In his 2024 annual letter to shareholders, he reflected on his experience handling his parents' finances after his mother passed away. He was surprised at how much they had saved despite their modest income, a stark contrast to the dire state many retirees found themselves in today. A system built on outdated assumptions. Well, yeah, or retard FDR, a system built on FDR's, either intentional sabotage or being a complete idiot. According to Fink, the crux of the issue is that the entire retirement system is outdated. Most Americans retire between 60 and 62, but most Americans pass away at 67. He explained today, statistically, that's when it started. Today, a couple 60-year-olds in good health, one of them is going to live over 90. With people living decades longer, retirement savings must stretch further, yet most aren't prepared. Which, by the way, the retirement age being 65 is ridiculous. It should be at least 75. Advances in medicine compound this longevity crisis. The miracles of technology are extending life, Fink said, referencing breakthroughs in treatments for heart disease, kidney disease, and even dementia. But while medicine is evolving, financial planning isn't keeping up. There is not a dialogue in America about, can we afford that longevity? Call for action and investment. Fink believes fixing retirement requirements requires 2 things: conservation and action. We solve problems through conversation, he said, but when it comes to retirement, we have no conversation. He stressed the need for a global and national dialogue to reevaluate retirement age, saving strategies, and investment approaches. One potential fix: using capital markets to boost retirement savings. Fink pointed to Japan, where a recent policy change doubled the amount of tax-deductible retirement contributions. The result, a 30% surge in the Japanese stock market, driven by long-term investment. Not only does it give financial returns for those who are retiring and saving for retirement, but it's a big foundation for domestic companies, he explained. Should Social Security be invested in the market? With Social Security on shaky ground, Fink suggests a controversial idea: investing the Social Security Trust Fund in long-term assets. Right now, Congress and a number of senators and congressmen are talking about rehabilitating our social security pool and maybe contributing a big block of money into, he noted, the U.S. system, he said, is a pay-as-you-go model, unlike countries such as Australia, where retirement funds are structured differently. Well, I mean, I actually totally agree with that. Like, what do we do with that money? Does it just sit there? I assumed it was being invested. Like, of course, it's not going to be enough. Like, if it's sitting there, it's losing its value, and it's not going to be enough to pay for the next generation. Like, if more people are getting added to the system, and then the value of money is getting decreased, of course, it's not going to cover it. But I mean, the stock market kind of goes up and down with inflation, so the money would compound in the right direction. It's like it's compounding in the wrong direction right now if it's just sitting there. And it's not just sitting there. Like they use it and they replenish it. A boomer responsibility. As a boomer himself, Fink acknowledged that his generation has benefited from economic prosperity, but he questioned whether they've done enough to secure a stable future for younger generations. No, not only have they not done enough to enable a stable future for us, but boomers have pillaged the future of millennials and people in Gen X. Pillaged it. 36 trillion. Pulled forward, put in their pocket, put the future in debt. So, no, you haven't secured a stable future. You've pillaged our future, boomers. Like, I would almost venture to say that boomers owe reparations to millennials and Gen Z. Like, look at this shit. Look at the difference in wealth held by generation. This is a crazy chart. So we got, what is this? 78 trillion held by boomers, 46 trillion held by Gen X, then 13 trillion held by millennials, and Gen Z did not even make the cut. So that's not because of saving and being older and having more time to make money. It's because you were able to buy houses before we got off the fucking gold standard, right? Like back in your day, it took an average 2 years of an average salary to buy an average price house. Today, it takes 8 years of an average salary to buy an average priced house. Like, if you threw some money in the stock market in the 70s, if you bought a house in the 70s, like, you're basically rich now. Like, you severely screwed up if you're not rich, and if you were of an investing age in the 70s. Like, you're really messed up if you aren't very well off if you were in your 20s in the 70s. So, like, look at this. This is one of the craziest websites out there. Going down the rabbit hole now. WTF happened in 1971. So many great charts on this website. Here we go. So we get off the gold standard and growth in productivity and hourly compensation since 48. All right. So they're pretty much in line until 71. Get off the gold standard. Productivity keeps going up. Compensation flat. Real GDP, real wages, and trade policies. All right. So the lowest one, real median weekly earning of full-time workers. Second lowest, average real wage. Third lowest, average real wage, GDP deflator. And then the next highest, real GDP per full-time and equivalent worker. And then the highest, real GDP per capita. All right, so GDP exponentially outgrows real wages. Income gains widely shared in early post-war decades, but after 71, the top 5%, the pace of their earnings goes up exponentially. Then the middle class earners stagnate. Lowest percentile almost goes down a bit. Then here we go. Look, this is a crazy one. Income growth from 1917 to 2012. All right, so bottom 90% from 1940 until 1971, the bottom 90% far outgrows the top 1%. And then top 1% Where are we? So right here, doesn't happen immediately, but more so in the 80s, really starts going crazy. And then the top 1% income growth starts outpacing the bottom 90%. All right. So that's what you talk about when you talk about what is it? The wealth gap. 50-year decline in wages share of the economy, total income. Not good, not good, not good. What else we got? Average black income was ripping higher, then progress slowed down. What's this one? Yeah, not that crazy. Oh, here's a crazy one. So America has become a nation of dual income workers. Disastrous. So in, let's see, 71, 38% of the time, only the husband worked. All right, down to 21%. 71, only the wife was working 3% of the time. Now it's up to 7, wife working only. Both spouses working 45% in 71. Now it's even worse than this. It was 66% 2010. It's probably like over 70% now. And then you got these psychos at the daycares and schools raising and indoctrinating the kids. What's this one? Campbell's tomato soup price increase goes crazy. See how flat it is there? It's not that bad there. It's 10 cents from, wow, 10 cents just about from 1895 until 1970. And then, oh, wow, they projected it to go to $1 by 2025, but I'm pretty sure it's like $3 right now. I haven't seen anything that costs $1. Cumulative inflation, nice 2,300%. Nice. Consumer price index. Yep, there you go. Goes wild after 71. Electricity, food, fruit. Yep. All ripping higher after 71. What is this? Average sales price for a house is sold for the United States federal minimum working wage, United States. Here we go. This is a good chart. This is the money chart. So what is this? How do they measure this? So cost, average sales price homes for United States / federal minimum hourly wage. So it's basically a ratio of the cost of the house compared to the hourly wage, the median hourly wage. So boomers, this is what you got to deal with. And then this is what we get to deal with. So we don't want to hear your bullshit. Like, you're lucky that we're not seriously asking for reparations because you didn't raise hell when they did this. I mean, I know we live in a pussified world. Like, I'm still pissed off the people, the Americans in 1913 who let the IRS get created, who let the Fed get created. You know, what would the founders think of that? Real house prices and rent index. Oh boy, yep. Look at that. Yeah, you guys had it good, boomers. You guys had it really good. And here we go. How long does it take to save for a house? Well, in the 1970s, it took about 2.4 years of saving an average income required to buy an average priced house. Gets up to 7 years in the 2000s. And this, I believe, was done before COVID. So it's at 7 years right there. I would imagine it's at least 8, 9, 10 years now because house prices pretty much doubled after COVID. So that's what we're talking about when we talk shit, boomers. I mean, there's like an infinite supply of these. There's one more that was really cool. Yeah, federal debt as percent of the GDP. Nice, great. Oh, look at, so this one's so big it doesn't even fit in the picture. That's what she said. U.S. national debt, 1900 to 2000. Ha! Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. That is madness. And that's only going to 2020. Oh, man. This only goes to 23 trillion. Now we're at 36. Oh, God. That's crazy. Imagine how bad this looks now. Like this much higher. Dear God. Oh, yep. And here we go. Deficit spending. So the only times before, I guess we're a little over deficit or in the red. So World War One, yep, overspend. And funny enough, like I said, I always say, right here, that's where we create the Fed. That's where we create the IRS. Spend, spend, spend. A little normal again. Great Depression, dumbass FDR, doing all the welfare stuff, paying people to dig holes and then fill them back up. Started the welfare, started the unions, started Medicare. Ugh. World War II goes back into a bad place. Inflation goes crazy, but not too bad right here. Then get off the gold standard, and the rest history. And if that's not inflationary, I don't know what is. Like, I don't want to hear shit about tariffs causing inflation when you overspend by $2 trillion a year, government. Yep, and this is actually a better looking surplus deficit chart, but I showed you guys this the other day. they threw a random Israel in here. The U.S. government has given over $200 billion in military aid to Israel. Yep, we sure have. We sure have. S&P PE ratio. It's not that crazy. But yeah, see, this is what I mean. Like right here, boomers, if you were buying S&P, you're in a good spot right now. What is it? If you put, I think, $1,000 in the S&P in 1971, it'd be a couple million. Schiller PE ratio. Yeah, that's the sweet spot. That's where you want to be. Working hours to buy the S&P. Oh, that's interesting. Wow, look at that. So boomers, it would take 30 hours to buy a share of the S&P back in your day. Is that right? And today, it takes, it sounds about right on average salary, because the S&P is at about, right here, the S&P is probably at 4,000. Right now it's at 6,000. So yeah, you need $6,000 to buy one share of the S&P today. Back then, just 30 hours. So you see what I mean? Again, like you can't say like, oh, it was cheaper back then, like, but you make more now, so it's the same. No, it's not the same thing. It's not even close to being the same thing. Like every investment vehicle was like 75% cheaper for you guys. Oof, speculation versus production. This gets into our manufacturing base. So industrial production takes a dump after 71, but volumes of future trading gets better than ever. And then here we go. Market cap by sector. Resources down. Financials up. Other down. Personal savings rate down because there's nothing left to save. Like I said, like the basic essentials, food, housing, energy, transportation should cost like 10% of your budget monthly. Not 60, not 70, which is what it is for most people. Got to fix that. Trade balance. Here we go. This is a good chart. So this right here, this is not a good thing. Not a good thing. This is what tariffs will fix. So we're like $1 trillion negative right now in a budget deficit. China's like $1 trillion positive in a budget surplus or a trade surplus. And that's because of this. So we got off the gold standard. We tried to offset inflation by outsourcing our manufacturing by doing this. And like, that's why that setup makes things cheaper. But I already explained how the tariffs could fix that. Yep, here we go. Trade balance. Cost of a barrel of oil in nominal terms. Yep. Just like everything. Oh, remember that when oil went negative? Oof. There's one more I wanted to show you. Ooh, so this is exactly what the globalists wanted. So the Club of Rome comes out with this thing called the Zero Industrial Growth Initiative in the 70s. And it is funny how starting in the 70s, energy use per capita, flat. Real GDP per capita still goes up somehow. Deficit spending. And look how stupid this is. Right? So what went down? Interesting. Nuclear gets bigger for a second and gets smaller. Hydro, pretty similar. Nat gas, similar. Yeah, I don't see anything crazy with this chart. It's political stuff. Where's the hospital one? I just want to show the hospital one. Number of lawyers in population per lawyer. So number of lawyers went up. Physics PhDs. Wow, U.S. citizen physics degrees went down. Non-U.S. citizens went up. So it's that India H-1B's bullshit. It even affects that. Shit. Incarceration rate went up, obviously, because a lot more people are poor now because they enslaved us with debt. Share of young adults living with their parents rises to the highest level since the Great Depression. So young adults classified as 18 to 29 got up to 48% in the Great Depression, got down to 29, 30% in the 60s through 80s, and then jumps back up when everything gets expensive, all the way up to 52% in July 2022. Probably worse now since things are more expensive than they were in July 2022. And I think I saw a number as high as 60% for that, which that's brutal. Wow. Foreign born in millions, up to 15% of the population. That is brutal because people aren't having kids because money. Median first age of marriage. This is a big one. Ladies, this might strike near and dear to you. So average age of marriage was 23 for guys, 21 for girls in the 70s. Today 30 for guys, 28 for girls. Divorce prevalence skyrockets. Single parent families with children. Well, this one I don't think is all in the gold standard. Definitely a big part, but definitely dumbass LBJ and his welfare initiative did not help with this. Paying women to get pregnant out of wedlock, rewarding them for it. Percent of children born to unwed women. 72% Black, 52% Hispanic. 40% of all children are born to unwed women. That is disgusting. Like, if you can't help it, it's still better to have the kid than to just recklessly have abortions all the time as the answer. But almost half out of wedlock, that's not good for society. And children born per woman, this is a problem. And man, this is even worse today. So this is 2015. It goes from 5 in the 50s to it's 2.5% in 2015. Now it's down to 1.7%. And that is not enough for a replacement rate. Here we go. This one's crazy too. So growth of physicians and administrators, 1970 to 2009. Physicians, flat. Administrators, skyrockets. percent of growth in U.S. healthcare spending per capita skyrockets. So all the money in healthcare is going to BS administrator jobs, and not a whole lot is going toward physicians. And there's a physician shortage in America. But guys, I have to jump on a Connect call with my buddy Art. And by the way, if you guys want to get on Connect with me, so a cool thing we could do is if you want PBD to hit any specific topics on the PBD podcast, or if you want us to make any special episodes about that, I'm the head of research for Valuetainment for PBD podcast. If there's something you think that we badly need to talk about that we're overlooking, connect with me on Connect, and I will pitch the idea to Pat, and if he likes it, we can do something with it. So I will drop my link in the chat right now, and hit me up if you think you have something you want us to talk about. And let me drop that real quick. But that's what I love about this show. I had no intention of going to WTF happened in 1971 tonight, but the conversation leads us there. So I love that. I love it. No problem with that at all. So here, I'm going to drop this in here, and then I'm going to go on this Connect call. So here you go. If you guys want to recommend topics, if we're missing something, connect with me on Connect. That is now pinned in the description. And as always, I love you guys. Wish I could talk to you all night, but I have to jump on this call, then go work out. And for the record, tonight was one of those nights, every once in a while you feel like you got hit by a train, because of the headache you got. For whatever reason, I had one of those days today. But would you have known? No, I would never let it be seen that I'm in pain. Not for you guys. Man, funny stuff. All right. Anyway, love you. It's always a blast. I will see you guys tomorrow. Much love. Goodbye. Goodbye. We talk about the deep state. We talk about the globalists. Inflation versus deflation.
Well, I mean,
Here at Mar-a-Lago.
I'm baffled that this isn't front page news.
Do you guys support a specific political party, or do you dislike both of them?
Oh, it worked like a charm on you guys.
Let's go, Brandon.